Welcome to the OT. I am Elise. Jessie and the Cincinnati Bengals took the practice field for the first time since everything that transpired on this field right behind me on Monday night. The reality of their situation, they have a game against Baltimore in their final game of the regular season on Sunday at 1 o'clock. They're trying to prepare for that. They're trying to get their mind wrapped around the fact that they will be taking the field and playing football again on Sunday. And luckily, the entire world got great news about Damar Hamlin's condition. It's been pretty tense this week waiting on good news on him. And the Buffalo Bills said that he is awake. He is, holding the hands of loved ones, and cognitively they are saying that he seems to be all right as far as everything goes right now. He is also writing and communicating via a notepad, and even asked if the Bills won the game on Monday night, and doctors told him he did win. He won the game of life. And players all heard about the update on him, and they all said that hearing positive news about Hamlin really gave them a jolt of energy. And it happened right before they went into practice, so they had a really great practice this afternoon. And before we get into the Baltimore Ravens conversation, I did talk to Tyler Boyd. I talked to Tee Higgins as well. You can find both of these interviews in full on our website, Cincinnati Bengals Talk, of course. Hit that subscribe button. Go and find these interviews in full on our channel. But I asked Tyler Boyd about Bart Scott's comments, because you never really see players come out and be so angry about comments that TV commentators make. And Tyler Boyd was really peeved about what Bart Scott said. And so I asked him about that. And you can tell in his answer that he was extremely protective of Tee Higgins in that moment. When you heard Bart Scott's comments, did you feel protective over Tee?
Absolutely. Like I said, I could have been double-sided. That's a football play. D-Ham popped straight up. It wasn't like he blindsided him or dirty hit. It was no dirty hits and things like that. But it's just like, how can you pinpoint on that? Like, I just feel like that's disrespectful for you to try to use your face or name to capitalize in the media field. I just feel like that wasn't appropriate. I feel like he could have handled that a lot better as a professional, because T, he's a good kid. Everybody knows that. He'll never intentionally go out there and hurt a person. That's not in his MO, bro. So, yeah, I didn't appreciate that.
Again, you can find Tyler Boyd's full interview on our channel, Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hit that subscribe button, and you will get those alerts for all of the interviews that we are going to flood you with this afternoon. I also spoke with Jessie Bates one-on-one this afternoon. He plays the same position as Damar. He's just like everybody else, just trying to process everything and wrap his mind around what happened, and also get into the groove of football, dive into the playbook, and get ready for the Baltimore Ravens. This is our conversation. All right, Jessie, you've got a paddle in your hand. I'm going to be brief with you, but how has it been for you and your teammates getting back into the building and trying to get back into a routine after what you witnessed on the field on Monday night?
Yeah, what happened, on Monday night is something that kind of puts things into perspective for you, how serious this game can get. We haven't been able to, see something like that, I don't think ever in the history of the NFL. You've seen a torn ACL, you see all of that, and you see guys still being able to respond, and then being able to experience that. And all I could think about, if it was one of our brothers in our locker room, there's no way I would be able to go out there and play and execute any type of plays. I would want to be at the hospital with my teammates. So it's something that's really emotional, obviously. But life just keeps going. It's something that you gotta learn from. I think Coach Burks did a really good job. We talked about it as a defensive backs group, just what's going on in our minds, just talk about it as a group. And I think that really helped a lot of guys come to peace, because when you go through something tragic like that, it's not good to just keep it in. It's good for us to talk amongst each other, amongst people who are going out there and risking their lives to play this game. So there's a lot of conversation, a lot of emotions that come out of something like that, but I'm happy to hear that there's positive news coming out every day about him. I was able to meet him a couple times with TB outside of football, so I got to know him personally as a person, and I know who he is and what he stands for. So I'm just happy to hear it's positive, so it's good.
And I'm curious to know now that we're hearing positive news about him, and you and your teammates are able to talk to each other about it and kind of process it together and go through it together. I know this group is extremely close, but does something like this bring you guys even closer together?
Yeah. You experience like some tragic stuff that happens, at your hometown, but there's not a lot of things that happen tragically, in our locker room. We're so protected as football players. We're so protected, but this is our first time being able to go through something as a team. So like I said, it was just good. I think our coaches did a really good job of just opening those doors and having emotional conversations about stuff that kind of triggered people's mind, other people passing, family members passing, people comparing it to that, and just like I said, just really coming back to earth and just really understanding what's going on in this world. So yeah.
And if you're comfortable with it, may I ask you one question about the Baltimore Ravens, the game coming up? Assuming that you want to play on Sunday.
Yeah.
How different does the Baltimore Ravens offense look without Lamar Jackson and with Tyler Henley in there and injured at that?
Yeah, they've done run a lot of 22 personnel where there's only one receiver in the game. They're still, running a lot of similar stuff, post, the counter, stuff like that they normally run. But they've been able to get Dobbins back, and I think he's done a really good job of, helping the run game out really well. So, there's still Baltimore Ravens type of team, run the football, play really good defense. So something that we're going to be prepared for. But, people are going to have to process it and go out there and play a football game on Sunday. So.
I also spoke with former Bengals safety. You guys remember him. He wore number 33. He was an extremely hard hitter. Former safety David Fulcher for the Bengals. He was here on Monday night. He was the ruler of the jungle. He was on the stage and screaming, and he talked about how loud it was. He said that when he was screaming, he couldn't even hear his scream. It was so loud inside Paycor Stadium. We talked just about that experience. We talked, of course, about the tragedy that happened and moving forward for players. Where are they at? How do they deal with this? And, of course, this conversation did take place before we heard the Damar Hamlin news. It took place last night. But he just gave a really great perspective from a player's point of view. Here he is. We welcome in former Bengals safety David Fulcher. You know him well, wore number 33 for the Cincinnati Bengals, an extremely hard hitter. David, you were also at the game on Monday night. You saw what I did from the press box view. When did you know that something was really, really wrong on the field when Hamlin went down?
It took a while because up in the press box, we couldn't really see anything. We knew that he was down. I didn't even know that he got up and then went back down until they kind of showed one little blip of that on the big jumbotron. But as you know, I sit right there with the officials from the league, and I heard the replay guys all saying, "Oh my gosh, whoa, 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 did you see that?" And then they start running the play back and forth on their monitor. Mm-hmm. They had obviously out, they have all the access to do that. And that's when I knew something was wrong, because then I could kind of lean over and look, and I saw him get up and I saw him fall back down. And then I saw Boyd making hand gestures. Like something was really wrong. And then the only thing I'm thinking now is that, maybe the kid just passed out because he's a little dizzy, and, he'll get back up in a second. And a second became 10, 11 minutes. Yeah. And then when that ambulance came out, then I knew there was something really, really wrong.
It was, we talked about this a bit off camera, but it was something that I've never seen before. I've also never seen players react like that to an injury. And it said a lot to me because, we see injuries all the time. They are certainly accustomed to seeing injuries and experiencing injuries themselves. But this was so different, and their reaction to it was something I've never seen before.
Obviously you're much younger than I am, but when Daryl Stingley got hit by Jack Tatum and was paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably, that was back in the 70s. So yeah, I was a little bit younger than I am today, but seeing that was pretty tough because they kind of show that periodically over, NFL films, the shot, but not really showing too much of it. But
Yeah.
Theismann breaks his leg on the field. Tim Krumrie breaks his leg on the Super Bowl, and I was right there by Timmy when that happened. But this wasn't football because we don't see this.
Yeah.
And those players saw something that we've never seen before. That field was not the normal football field when a player gets hurt, especially when CPR and shocking and bringing him back on the field right in front of him. You're not supposed to see that, and you could tell that how emotional the players got, that something wasn't right on both sides. Both teams saw that, and you definitely could see it in the Buffalo Bills players' eyes and their faces.
Well, I think it's been a few days since this happened. And so, all of the networks and everyone's been talking about, the play and analyzing it and what happened and is anybody at fault? And the tackle to Tee Higgins looked pretty routine. I mean, it looked like something we see all the time. But the what happened afterwards was just so out of the ordinary. I certainly wouldn't think that Tee Higgins is at fault whatsoever.
No, I tell people, and I'm kind of looking at it from the perspective of normally the defender is the one who delivers the blow.
Mm-hmm.
And Tee Higgins was running. If Tee Higgins catches the football on the Bengals side, which he did catch it, if he turns up the field, this may be a different story. But he runs across the field because he's running away from the linebacker and the safety's coming over the top. And when T got to the point where he needed to go upfield, he just dropped his shoulder and went forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I talked about this before we got on here, that that young man was hit in a spot that I have no idea. I won't say sensitive, but it just happened to be a spot in his chest that created this issue. And Tee Higgins was just doing his job, trying to get the ball up the field, and no way that T did anything wrong. I think this is a tackle or a play that happens every game.
Mm-hmm.
I've hit people, and people have ran into me trying to get away from me, and the defender normally delivers the blow. Tee Higgins delivered the blow, but he wasn't really trying to deliver a blow. He was just trying to go forward, and it happened. And so they every now and then you'll see on the media that somebody is showing the catch and then the tackle, and then they stop it.
Yeah.
But that young man got up, and when he got up, I think it was just the pressure that he had. From his chest, from his head, from his throat, from wherever he was, it just exhausted. And that's how he fell back on the ground.
Well, and, Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, and DJ Reader, all three of them spoke for the first time since that happened on Monday night. And that happened on Wednesday afternoon where they spoke to the media. And, Joe Burrow was talking about how they were coming back to the stadium and all they could really do, because they know they have a game against Baltimore on Sunday at 1:00. All they can really do is try to get their mind off of it and go back to their normal routine and just feel as normal as possible. How hard is it, do you think, as a former player, to compartmentalize and hone in your focus on your craft, even when things outside of football just aren't going right or aren't feeling right outside of football?
Well, we said this is out of the norm because it hasn't happened in football, what they saw and what we've seeing and how this injury has taken place. I don't know if there is. I don't know how you can get back to your norm.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I don't know how you can get back. I know that we have a job. I know we have things we have to do, but the 38-yard line, if that's the yard line the kid was laying on, is still going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to run right over that field, and I'm going to see that. And like I told you, when I came home early the next morning, Tuesday morning, I think I must have woke up 5 or 6 times just because I can see that young man fall back to the ground. I could see that in my vision. I could see that in my dream. And I've hit people many times in my career and been hit by people many times in my career. And you try to forget about that because you have the next play. I don't know how you can forget about it because it's there. As a hitter, I'm worried about hitting somebody now. I'm also worried about somebody coming out of nowhere and hitting me now. So how do you come back and you play the norm and do the norm when that's so heavy on your mind? And I understand what Joe is saying. I also understand what DJ is saying. I do. I understand that. It's hard, but we have to go back. And, I just don't know if going back now is it. I don't know what to do. I really wouldn't know what to do. I can only follow what the teams is saying and what my owners and coaches are saying, but yet still in my mind, if I'm not ready, I don't want to go.
Do you think there will be, because DJ said on Wednesday evening that he really wasn't in the frame of mind to make the decision on whether or not that he's going to play on Sunday, because he was asked if he wanted to play Sunday. And he was very frank and raw and just said, I don't think I'm in the position to make that choice right now. Do you think if guys do decide to play because, they're playing for more than a game check, they're playing for their teammates, they're playing for their family, for their children, for where they grew up, they're playing for so much more than themselves. Do you think that eventually through the game that something like that would fade out of their mind during that time period? Or does that, just the memory of what happened on that field, just stick with you?
Eventually, I think when you get excited, and I'll give you an example, our Super Bowl in '88, before the game started, I was very nervous. I was concerned about when they call my name out and I'm running out there as a defensive starter that I would trip because I was so nervous. I started high kneeing across the field when they called my name. And as soon as I hit somebody in warm-ups, it was just another football game. I was ready to play.
Yeah.
And then when Tim Crumry got hurt and they took him off the field in the ambulance and they had him, well, I don't know if it was the ambulance, but they took him off the field. And we were standing there for a good 10 minutes or so for them to air cast him and take him off the field. As soon as I made an impact or hit somebody on the 49ers and the game got going, Timmy's injury left my vision. It left my thoughts. And it didn't help that Timmy was still in the locker room at halftime and didn't go to the hospital. So when we came in at halftime, we saw him laying there on the gurney in the locker room because he didn't want to go to the hospital. So it left. But remember, Timmy's injury wasn't like what we saw on Monday. I don't know. I mean, I do feel both. I feel him. I feel this is hard, man, because you're gonna, in the back of your mind, and we said it, could this happen to me? Could it happen to another one of my teammates? Could this happen in this Baltimore game? Could something really bad happen? And now I'm thinking about, I have to hit this guy. I've got to tackle this guy. He's coming across the middle. And do I want to grab him and pull him down instead of hitting him? Because you don't want to play soft because you can get hurt by playing soft.
Yeah.
Then you don't know if you should be aggressive enough because that's how you've been. So now your game is suspect because you don't want to make a mistake. So if you don't play the game, well, you can't do any harm. You can't do any wrong. If you play the game, Are you playing it at 100 miles an hour? Or are you playing it at 50 miles an hour? Are you playing it at 10 miles an hour? Are you just giving a little bit because you don't want to get hurt? And it's going to mess with your head. And I think it's messing with listening to DJ talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's already messing with his head. It's already in his head. And he doesn't know what he wants to do. And I can understand exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. When he spoke, it was just under 48 hours since it happened. So in my head, when I was listening to him speak, he seemed still very raw and emotional. And so I was just thinking, he's still going through the processing stage. He's still trying to deal with it. And he's probably, much like you and I, replaying Hamlin falling. I mean, that whole scene has played throughout my head. I don't even know, hundreds of times since it happened. So, and I wasn't even on the field. I was in the press box. So I can't even imagine being on the field and not only experiencing that up close, but also experiencing, your teammates, how they're reacting, how Bills players are reacting, watching the medical staff work feverishly on him to, get a heartbeat. I can't imagine all of the things that are just running through their heads right now.
I think too that it might take, I think it's, and I don't know if this is the best or if it's going to happen, it might take, them, once they put the pads on and they're hitting against each other, that it kind of gives a refurbish of why we're out there. I'm getting used to hitting each other, and I just hit you and it didn't hurt. I didn't get hurt. I swung you around, and I'm, those things may come into the play and said, oh, okay, well, I think it's okay now that we can go play football. But the thought process of that happening will never go away. The visualizing and what they visualized and what they saw probably will never go away. You kind of say to yourself, you wish this football team wasn't in the playoffs, that the last game of the year, hey, we're just going to postpone and go home. That way you don't have to worry about it. You got a whole year but they're fighting for a playoff spot, and they've got it, but they're still battling for a chance to win the Super Bowl, and they've got to overcome this. The league is not going to stop it, so it's going to have to be played. And then, as a football player, you have the right.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to play, and you can't force him to play, but yet they can be mad at him, but then they can't be mad at him because the mindset says, I'm not ready. But then you ask yourself with your teammates, they're finna go to war and I want to go out there with them. But man, I'm just thinking about this young boy who just, hurt himself in this game. So it's a lot to think about, man. It really is a lot to think about in a short time to think about it, because Sunday will be here pretty quick.
I think Sunday, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think that Sunday is going to be something that is extremely unique, especially for the Bengals and the Bills if they do play, because we always see these guys supersede the norm, what's expected of a normal human being. They're extremely strong. Their speed is, crazy, something we've never seen before. And now it's almost like we're going to see these guys going through an extremely rare mental game. Mental toughness is really going to play a part in Sunday's game against the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel.
No, I feel the same way. I don't know how they are going to start the game against Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it going to be very tentative? I would hope that it wouldn't be. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be flat. You don't know if Burrow's going to be on cue with throwing the ball. You don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, Baltimore is obviously it didn't happen to the Baltimore Ravens because they weren't on the field with them, with the Buffalo Bills. But it happened to the National Football League that everybody had a chance to watch it. Baltimore's coming in here after losing a game against Pittsburgh. They're coming in here and they're hungry.
Yeah.
You got a Bengals team who has a lot of thought process going on.
Right.
And you don't have a lot of time to think about it on Sunday when Baltimore comes in here. If you keep thinking about it, you're going to find yourself behind, so many points that now you're going, well, whatever. It's just football, man. And I don't really care about it now, and I feel bad. But, I don't know, man. These guys are young, and I know I was listening to Joe, and Joe said, it's our job, and we got to get prepared for a game on Sunday. And, but there's no way you could play this game without thinking about what you saw on Monday night.
And you and I were talking about this topic before we started recording, and I think it's really interesting because before this happened, there were a good amount of people who, mothers in particular, talking about how they weren't going to let their kids play football, mainly because of concussions. Concussions were the main reason why. When you have Monday Night Football, all of these kids were at the game. There were tons of kids at the game. There were tons of kids probably watching with their parents. And, personally, I have a son as well. He's only a year old, so he's got a little while. But
don't be a day that he wants to play.
But judging from his size right now, I would expect him to be an offensive lineman, probably the way he eats. But for me, it's like if my kid came to me and said, I really want to play football, it's like, how do you make that decision? How do you hold off? How do you, tell them, no, your best friends are playing football, but you cannot. And here's why. And at that point, you know how teenagers are. They're not going to rationalize that. They're not going to understand why you're not letting them do something that they want to do. So I think that a lot of parents will have a lot of tough conversations and tough situations ahead of them.
And that's going to be hard. I mean, how do you tell your kid they can't play? Because here's the thought that I have with the sports. It could be basketball. It could be baseball.
Baseball too. This happens in baseball, hockey.
It could be hockey. It could be anything that happens, but it just happened to be on the football field where you don't really see that often, or haven't really seen it at all. But yeah, I think that this scenario that happened Monday is going to affect kids and parents and moms, especially the moms, and the dads are going to have to be thinking about it too, because it doesn't happen, but it happened. So now you're going, well, if it happened to him, it could happen to me, or it could happen to my kid, or it could happen to, and for your kid to say, even if your kid came and said, I don't want to play football. Ooh, okay, good. You don't want to play. But if your kid comes up and says he wants to play football, and it's like, no, you can't play, Johnny. Well, Mom, why not? Because you remember that day. Well, Mom, but in the back of your mind, as a parent, you go, I want to keep my kid safe. If I saw this, what I saw, and my son David was playing football, I'd be like, hey, man, you ever thought about picking up a golf club? Doing something different? And he's probably going to tell me, no, Dad, I like this. And I'm thinking, oh, man. But I played the game, so how do I tell him that he can't play it? And that would be hard, because what we saw was very scary. What we see during games and guys get knocked out, they get concussion, Tua's incident that took place. And, when I saw that, game's over. Don't play no more. He should be done. And then he comes back, and then he comes back, and he's tearing it up. So it's like, well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. I thought, 5 weeks ago, this guy should be retired and run off to the sunset and do what he needs to do, but he's still playing football. So it's because of passion, the passion that we have for the game. We're so protected that one little shot and where he was hit wasn't protected. And that one little spot, maybe now they'll do something different, but that one little spot has got all of us on pins and needles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes this tough, because it doesn't happen. And then
Right.
it happened, and now we're all going, whoa, I'm done. Moms are telling their kids they can't play. And they have a reason and a right to say it, because it is scary. It is scary.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, we made the decision before we even had kids that if we had a boy and he wanted to play football, if he wanted to, we wouldn't let him play until high school. Just the wear and tear on the body, so you can play anything else other than football until high school level. But I think also, if you tell a kid, you can't play football, you can't play hockey, can't play baseball, you can't play basketball, I'm scared of you, breaking your ankle or getting a concussion, or, something happening to you like what happened to Damar Hamlin in 2023. It's almost like, how much of a bubble do you keep your kid in?
So
what are they allowed to do?
Then you can tell him that, that skateboard I bought you, you can't ride a skateboard no more because there's a crack on the ground that can make you fall and hurt yourself. But then, so what can your kid do?
Right.
You can only, and I say you can only, you can do what you want to do, but, and then up to what age you do it. But, if you hide them in a bubble, then they're going to go out and do something that you don't want them to do, that they shouldn't do. And then you say, oh man, I should just let him be himself, and probably this would never happen. So I don't know if, like I said, this was a freak accident. This was something that doesn't happen daily. You're not going to get rid of the concussions. You're not going to get rid of the broken bones. You're not going to get rid of, somebody, getting flipped up and knocked down. But this one, like I said, makes all those other ones, they don't exist. Right. Because everybody's focused on this one. And we should be, because no one should lose their life or be traumatized and hurt because of something like this. But, I think I heard Joe Burrow said that it's part of the game. Mm-hmm. The injuries are part of the game. This isn't, because we've never seen it. But this is an injury. This is a player getting injured, playing a sport that he loved to play. And it was just one of those 10 million, whatever number you can throw up there, incidents that never happened. One out of whatever, and it happened.
It's just it's such a weird feeling and an uneasy feeling, David, when you think about the fact that, yes, we've gotten some updates, but we haven't gotten real updates, like concrete updates from the hospital or any further updates from the Bills. And so it just feels very like everyone is very tense and waiting on pins and needles to find out how Hamlin is doing.
And we're all sitting around waiting for some kind of confirmation that he's up around, he's moving, he's talking, and we're waiting for that. The world is waiting for it. It's like when you're a mom, and my wife Judy's had my daughter Kayla and David, and sitting there waiting for that baby to come out. I've been there for like 12 hours, 12 hours now, and 48 hours. Are you ready to get? And we're just waiting for something good to come out of what took place. And I think because we're not hearing anything makes us wonder and worry, because it's been, over, 40, 45, 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And we haven't heard anything. And, we're in a world that we're waiting for answers. We want them right now.
Right. Yeah.
We want it right now. We don't want to wait later on. We want it right now, and we're not getting anything. So we're scared. We're scared for this young man. We're scared for his family. We're scared as a nation. We're scared as a football family. We're scared as a football fan. That and just give us something. Give us something. And right now we're not getting anything. So I think that's what makes this very tenseful, because we don't know anything. And we're just speculating. We might hear something, and we might hear some news that he's still in critical condition. Okay, so what is critical condition?
Yeah, it's very
What does
bad.
that mean? I mean, critical condition to me tells me that something's not right. And I think that's what we're getting. We're not getting something that's not right. Okay, well, what is it? And as a fan, we want to know. And as an alumni, I want to know. 24 years old, and you hate to see it happen to anybody, but he's
Right.
24 years old. He's got a lot of life ahead of him, and we just want to know what's going on.
Well, I'll end on this is so tough, such a tough, conversation to be having all week long, like we have been. But on a positive note, you and I both live in Cincinnati. We know what this city brings. We know the vibrancy, just the people here, how amazing they are. And it does not shock me at all that you see all the the blue colors on all the buildings in the city. You see, Jeff Ruby, offering dinner to Hamlin's family as they're waiting in the hospital. You hear about the Weilers, providing a car for the family while they're dealing with this situation. It's very Cincinnati to me. That everyone is coming together and supporting Hamlin and his family and the Bills. I just wanted to get your thoughts on your reaction to that, I guess.
Well, it's at least Cincinnati is just we've always been like that. A given city. The NFL Players Association, Mark Collins, Joe Kelly, and David Wilkins went down to the hospital with the family, and probably about the Cincinnati chapter. So probably about 30, 35 of us donated a whole lot of money, and they brought it to the family. They took it down to the hospital and gave it to the family to buy any needs and things that you want. So Cincinnati's chapter, alumni chapter, is giving money to the Hamlin family, and it was all started by our president, Mark Collins, who is a former Buffalo Bill who lives in Kentucky. He's our Cincinnati chapter in Cincinnati. He's our president. So it just goes to show what Cincinnati does and how guys are just behind it. We really hate to see that because we're competitors as well as we are brothers of the National Football League. But when he went down, it wasn't even about the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals anymore. It was about the brothers from the National Football League helping another brother. And then it was the city of Cincinnati, the fans, who hours before that was booing Buffalo. But if we just go to show that how tragically things can happen, people still have a common goal that we're all human and we're all part of this same globe of God's children. So when this young man went down, this was a child of God that if we're all part of God, he was part of our family as well. So we are all happy to see or wanting to see this young man get up, and we're all praying for him. And I think Cincinnati's done a great job.
I think so too. I will say I'm extremely proud to be a part of the fabric of this city.
Oh yeah.
As I know you are as well.
No doubt.
David, thank you so much for joining me. I know that this conversation has not been easy, and I know you've been probably slammed with interviews because you played that position, your former player, but I appreciate you joining me, and I likely will see you on Sunday.
Yeah, I hope that Sunday that when these guys come back, that they're ready to play football and they got their mind on the game that they're playing against the Ravens, and not flashbacking on anything behind them, because that would be really detrimental to Cincinnati's football team because they're not really focused. But I think Zach Taylor and that organization and those captains on that team will try to get those guys ready and get their minds right, because even though it's just a game, they still have a lot to fight for. And I think they're going to go out there and really, really fight for Hamlin and his family to beat those Ravens.